Alright guys, so today we're looking at our last target for Unit 2, our target on right triangles and trigonometry. So target 2C is kind of wrapping everything together, and we're looking at applications involving right triangles. We've actually started looking at this stuff already. This isn't really going to be too much of new stuff, it's just going to be continuing practicing it. Okay, so applications of right triangles is really just a lot of word problems. So there is a little bit of new vocabulary. A lot of it we've seen before, right? We're used to a right triangle. A right triangle is a triangle in which one of the three angles is 90 degrees, right? The big important thing, though, is the triangle has a hypotenuse and two legs. And again, we've looked at this already a little bit as well. So for the hypotenuse, right, that goes back to our trig. Our trig always had a hypotenuse too. And the hypotenuse, right, is across from that 90-degree angle. The other two sides of your triangle are technically called the legs, right? And there's the opposite leg from the angle and the adjacent leg to the angle, but they're both legs. Okay. Now we have, so knowing those parts, we can now use the Pythagorean theorem. Right, and it's used to find the missing length of a triangle or to prove whether or not a triangle is a right triangle. So that formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if you're missing a side of a right triangle, but you know the other two, you can use this formula. Or if you have all three sides of a triangle, right, and you want to see if it is a right triangle, I'm just going to plug it in, right, and see if it's equal. If they're equal, it's a right triangle. If they're not equal, it's not a right triangle. And finally, angles of elevation and depression. This is going to be super important within our word problems so that we know which angle they're talking about. Okay. So the angle of elevation, right, goes up from the horizontal, and the angle of depression goes down from the horizontal. Right. The most important thing is both of these go from the horizontal line. We never go from a vertical one. A lot of students, especially with the angle of depression, get confused if there's something like, oh, someone's standing on a cliff. Right, here's my little person. And their angle of depression, whatever, is right, so 15 degrees. Right, it is from the horizontal. It's not, right, a lot of students want to say it's this line here, and that's not true. Okay? It's that horizontal line. So just remember, angles of elevation and angles of depression always go from the horizontal line. Alright, so let's look at just a few problems we're going to look at today. And the problems we're going to look at today have to do with Pythagorean theorem. And so we're going to solve for the unknown side. So if I look at example A, this is the side I'm solving for. There's x. Okay? So the most important part when you're solving for Pythagorean theorem is knowing, okay, is that you're solving for your leg or you're solving for your hypotenuse. Here, I'm solving for my hypotenuse. Right, hypotenuse, like left. Or, right, C, A, and B. A and B, it doesn't really matter the order. Those legs can be either, right? This could be A, that could be B, just as long as those are your legs. Okay? So again, Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A is 21 squared, B is 20 squared, and C is my x squared. Or you could use C there as well. So then, looking at this, problem 21 squared is 441. 20 squared is 400. I'm going to add those two numbers together. You get 841 equals x squared. And then to get rid of that squared, I have to take the square root. So then the square root of 841 is 29. So you get x equals 29 there. example B. Example B is slightly different. Example B, right? I know my C. I know the hypotenuse, right? And I have A and B, my two legs, right? And I don't know A. I don't know one of my legs in this situation. So what I'm going to do, right, is set up the same exact thing. I still have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So now instead A is my x squared, B is 8 squared, and C is 20 squared. I still want to square all my numbers. So x squared, 8 squared is 64, and 20 squared is 400. Now this is where it differs. On this one, since we knew both our legs, we just added them together. Here, right, I need to move that 64 away from that x squared. So now I have to subtract 64. So x squared equals 336. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And for this one, I get a weird number. Not a weird number, but a decimal. So I get about 18.3. So x is about 18.3. That's all we're going to look at for today, is just solving the Pythagorean theorem and make sure we're really strong in that. All right, have a good night, guys.